Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jason. I am back again with another video, and it is another thread response. This one is going out for Cosmic Brian, aka Cosmic Vinyl, over there in the VC. He created this one, I guess, just a couple days ago, and then I also saw Vinyl Richie do his take on it, his response to this thread as well. So basically, these are 10 records that are undervalued, underrated, getting no love basically in the VC, or as Vinyl Richie put it, the stepchildren in the VC. They tend to be bands. I try to pick bands that are mostly known to you guys. I think these should all be well known artists or bands, nothing too obscure, maybe a little bit obscure towards the end, but yeah, albums that are either looked over in the catalog of a band that's very well known, or maybe it is an artist or a band that's just not mentioned too much in the VC. So nevertheless, I pulled 10 and a couple of extras too for extra shoutouts at the end. So let's dive into it. I'm going to start off with an artist from the UK that I always think he's American for some reason because he sounds a little bit like a more punky version of Billy Joel, if you ask me. But I'm going to go with Joe Jackson's I'm the Man. It's their second album by Joe Jackson after Look Sharp, which I guess straight out the gate did have some hits. And I think most people would show, what is it, like the Day and Night album, Stepping Out one, which was my first introduction to Joe Jackson, which is a very, much more polished, well produced, kind of jazz influenced new wave record. This is a little more raw, definitely like in that kind of pub rock, power pop, sort of Elvis Costello meets the Buzzcocks in a way. New wave, post punk, all those names apply basically, but killer record from top to bottom, by the way. I'm the Man, the obvious single on this one, but On Your Radio is also good. The band wore blue shirts. I like quite a bit as well. Yeah, just I would have to say almost every song on this record rocks, and no real duds to be found here. But yeah, I don't see Joe Jackson, I guess, in general that much in the VC or this album for sure. So that would be my first one. Now, next one is a little bit controversial in this band's sort of catalog. I don't think it's never really mentioned as their favorite by the band. I should say that Joe Jackson is the second album. I think I already mentioned that. This one comes around ninth album by this band, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason why I pick it, I don't know. It's one of the earliest ones I got from this band when I was a kid. Maybe the second or third album that I picked up by them. So it's kind of one of my introductions to the band, and it's kind of always stuck with me over the years. And that is going to be the Ramones and Animal Boy. Yeah, it's kind of controversial in a way since it is kind of an odd one. They're kind of like going through some issues, I think, at this point, and there's not a lot of Joey Ramone on this record. Actually, it's like probably the least amount of Joey Ramone on vocals. He's singing maybe like half the songs, and then the other half are being sung by Dee Dee. A lot of writing by Dee Dee, actually. And so it's a bit of a mixed bag, this album, when you go through the track listings on this thing. A real mixed bag. You have like things like, you've got Love Kills on this, which didn't actually end up making the soundtrack about Sid and Nancy, the Sid and Nancy movie by Alex Cox. So that's kind of a weird number. It's kind of a ripper. You've got tracks like Love Kills and Eat That Rat, which I actually kind of like on side two, which are sort of more hard and heavy, kind of Dee Dee Ramone style. Then you've got this sort of like, I guess, sarcastic, sardonic, pop punk kind of track with Something to Believe In, the last track on the album. It's actually not one of my faves. My faves on this one, Somebody Put Something in My Drink, still a standout track. It's kicks off the whole album, and it's just got a great kind of vocal to it. Animal Boy is pretty good. 8-Man Hop is good. My Brain's Hanging Upside Down is okay. It's a little long, I find. Mental Hell is very good. And like I said, Eat That Rat is okay for a fun time. But yeah, it's not by any means my favorite Ramones album. That would be probably Road to Ruin. But when I was a kid, I had the debut, obviously, and I had Road to Ruin, and I had this one. This came out in '86, and I remember sort of picking it up around the time that it came out. It would have been like '87 or '88. I picked this up, and I don't think I was blown away or anything. It wasn't like hardcore punk, like the crossover stuff we were starting to listen to, like whether it was Dead Kennedys or DRI or anything like that. But it was a pretty heavy hitting record, nonetheless. Should also mention too, produced by Jean Bouvier of Plasmatics as well. So there's that to consider as well. Next up, a record that I really really love. Grown to love it pretty quickly actually. Just got this this past year. Hadn't really picked up a lot of albums by this artist from New York. And I will say that this is one of a couple of records in here that are sort of more on the funkier disco side of things, which I think gets not enough love in the VC as well. And that is, in this case, Kid Creole and the Coconuts' Wise Guy. It's also called Tropical Gangster in most of the rest of the world, but for the US and Canadian market, it was renamed Wise Guy. Honestly, Kid Creole is a little bit ahead of everybody else, I think. Sort of avant garde disco. So lots of fusion going on, just really funky tracks, very accessible as well. Of course, the big hit on this one was Stool Pigeon, but my favorite song on this thing is the last track on side one, called "I'm Corrupt." Love the chorus of that one. Kind of fits very well with the current state of affairs down south in the U.S. I would say it's another Sire release, and the debut album by Kid Creole. Before this one, I think it's the debut. I really like that one too, but I pulled this one. Never see this in the VC much. Don't know if anyone's shown this. Maybe John, the 6-inch pianist, has shown it. I don't know. It's definitely on the funkier side, but Annie, I'm Not Your Daddy is also good on this. I would honestly would say like most, if not all, tracks on this album are decent. Came out in '82 and still works. Like, this is definitely a record that's in my record box all the time for DJing. There's quite a few in this pile actually of underrated records that are in my regular rotation. Um, why don't we pull one more like that right now? It's in my rotation all the time. A record I used to have on cassette when I was a kid. The second Agent Orange album. This is The Voice. This is highly, highly underrated, I think. It's a really interesting record, too, because it's quite a departure from the debut. So, Living in Darkness, it's kind of an EP, really. It's very short. This has, like, tons of that kind of surf rock punk, California style, but really a lot of surf rock with Misralou, cover, Bloodstains, Too Young to Die. It's hardcore and surfy. This one is much more polished in production wise and almost like another band. I mean, it's got that kind of energy and spirit of the debut, but it's way more polished. Kind of pop punk. I would even say a precursor to a lot of the later pop punk stuff that we got in the 90s and 2000s. Just great tracks. I never know if I'm like just super biased on this record because I fell in love with it early on and just kept playing it over and over. So almost a record that I don't even need to listen to because I know the song so much in my head. Speaking of which, Voices, It's in Your Head is amazing. Voices in the Night, Fire in the Rain, a great track. Just really good melodic punk. Tearing Me Apart, So Strange, Bite the Hand That Feeds, I Kill Spies. Pretty much every track on this record is awesome. See, I came out on Enigma, so it's not easy to find. I don't even know if it's been reissued a lot. I snatched this OG copy a while back for $12 in Toronto, and very happy that I did. Now, next up, I'm going to go stateside again with an artist that I don't think gets enough love in the VC, considering that the VC is quite into melody and classic rock. Not that this artist is classic rock. He's a little kookier than that, a little more indie. I'm going to go with Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers. Modern Lovers 88, to be specific. I could have pulled almost any of his records. They're all kind of favorites of mine over the years. Just the singability nature of his songs, very simplistic but catchy as hell. And but I decided to pull this one. I really love a lot of tracks on this, especially on side B. Side B, pretty much top to bottom. You got "I Love Hot Nights," one of the best Richmond songs, I think, right up there with "Roadrunner" on the Modern Lovers. "California Desert Party," "Everything's Gotta Be Right" is good. "Circle I," also a very fun song. Then the last two probably could do without. I have "Come Out to Play's Okay" and "Theme from Moulin Rouge," probably unnecessary. Side A, "Dancing Late at Night," "New Kind of Neighborhood," "Gail Loves Me." It's okay. Side A is okay. Side B gets a lot of repeat plays. Usually, though, I don't really play it on vinyl. I usually play Jonathan Richman on Spotify or some streaming service. Always good road trip kind of music, especially if you're going down south. But we're not going down south. We're not going to the States too much anymore. These will be kind of memories, I guess, of a more quieter, gentler time in New England. Jonathan Richman. I've never got to see him live, actually, and he has come up to Canada, I think, sometimes before, so still on my list to see. All right, next up, we're going to go straight up Canadian here, with a record that's very underrated or maybe very unloved. I think it's probably the least favorite in his catalog by those who are hardcore fans of this artist. By the way, full disclosure, I'm not a fan, not much of a fan of this artist. It's the only record I actually have by Mr. Neil Young. It's the Trans album. And again, kind of a nostalgic thing for me because for some odd reason, when I was a little kid buying records with allowance money or whatever, I would buy sort of these new rock albums of the 80s, whether it be Billy Joel's 80s records or Greg Kihn band. And this one, I guess, probably appealed to me from the cover or something. I didn't know anything about Neil Young or his legacy. And yet, what a modern 80s sounding album this is. This is his computer rock album, his synth pop album. I dig it quite a bit. I like a lot of the tracks on this one. Starting off with the opening track, a little thing called "Love," but "Computer Age" is really good. "We Are in Control" is good. "Mr. Soul" on side 2 sounds kind of like it could be a Daft Punk inspiration. They should maybe do a cover of that. Vocoder is all over this record. "Hold On to Love" is good. "Sample and Hold" is good on side 2. Most of side 2, actually, the first 3 tracks out of 4 are all excellent. Side 1, couple of good tracks, couple of okay, whatever. This is just a funny record for Mr. Young. I think this was his fuck you record. He didn't want to be on the record label anymore, but he was under contract to produce some more albums, so this was what they got. It was not classic rock by any means, but it was the 1980s anyway, so maybe it did well. I don't know how well or not well this did on Geffen Records, but Neil Young's Trans album, my favorite pick from his catalog. The only Neil Young record I have in my collection. I'll go with another controversial pick in terms of something people don't like that much in the catalog of this epic classic rock band. I'm going to go with Queen. I think Brian showed The Game by Queen, which is also very underrated. Probably my second favorite album. Second or third. It's in my top 5. This is also in my top 5 by Queen as well. I really dig this record. I've been wanting to get it for a while, and I finally found it in the wild for pretty cheap, for $10. Probably worth more like a $5 record maybe in some ways, but I don't know. It's got a shitload of good songs on this thing. Of course, it ends with "Under Pressure," probably the most popular track from the whole thing, with David Bowie. We all heard that kind of 100 times. John at the 6-Inch Pianist, his YouTube channel, he kind of got me into listening to Cool Cat on this record. Second last song on side B. Definitely the best song of the whole album. It's just kind of smooth and simple, kind of slinky, kind of funky track. Staying Power is also really good. I like it. It's a little more in your face. Dancer and Back Chat is also good. Life is Real is kind of good too. It's his homage to John Lennon. I think this must have came out after Lennon died. This is 81, 82. So yeah, Queen, Hot Space. I recommend it. If you are into disco or funk stuff, definitely recommend. But if you want like their classic rock sound, this is probably not going to do it for you. But hey, it's still Queen. It's still the legends. How about we get into a little bit of hip hop here for a second and talk about Run DMC. Also legendary band, right out of Hollis, Queens. This is not usually the album that people grab for, I think, in Run DMC's catalog. I mean, Raising Hell is obviously the obvious pick with It's Tricky and My Adidas and, of course, that Aerosmith song, Walk This Way. But this was the follow-up to Raising Hell, which is a really tough thing to do, I think, because they had set kind of a really high bar with Raising Hell, probably like their biggest selling album still to this day. It had Rick Rubin all over it with production. It was like rock meets hip hop in the best ways possible. So what are they going to do? They got to try to repeat that. They kind of do it with this one, I think. They kind of achieve that, yet still branching off into the newer sounds of hip hop at this point. Because really, I mean, I would almost put Raising Hell at the beginning of the golden era, like in 86. Golden era from 86 to 93, I would say, for samples and for amazing hip hop. This one has to come out in 88, like the same time as like Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Public Enemy, and NWA is starting to get charged up as well as De La Soul. I mean, this is like a very, very busy time for hip hop, and the best records of a lot of these artists is coming out. This one is good. It's probably my number 2 pick right after Raising Hell. I really dig like the early raw stuff by Run DMC as well. Lately, it's super minimalist. This is not minimalist or raw, but it still can get pretty heavy and very funky. Beats to the Rhyme is like a super fast, speedy one, and Run's House are the 2 bangers on this album. Like super, super awesome. Tougher Than Leather is like the heavier track. Then you got fun stuff like Papa Crazy and Radio Station and How'd You Do It, D. I like all the tracks on this because they've all grown on me over the years. Ragtime is like a funny one too. And then of course the single that they try to put out on this one, where they try to recapture this whole like let's go and sample and redo an old rock and roll classic. They did Mary Mary, Why You Buggin', which was the cover of a Monkees track. So going from Aerosmith to Monkees, I'm not sure exactly that was a step up in terms of trying to recreate the magic. But it's kind of more of a funny kind of take. So in some ways, this album fits a little bit closer, I'd say, to De La Soul's magnificent opener with 3 Feet High and Rising, and some of the sort of lighter-hearted kind of aspects of hip-hop sampling. Fits a little bit closer with that. So somewhere, I would say somewhere in between, like, let's say Beastie Boys' License to Ill and De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising, you could slot this Tougher Than Hell record by Run DMC. Other thing to say about this record, there's a movie for this record as well. So check that out. Classic hip-hop movie with Run DMC actually in it, and I think Rick Rubin is in it as well as Beastie Boys. It's kind of a classic, cult classic, not easy to find. Okay, I got 2 more in the top 10, and then I'll give you just quickies for the extras, because I know it's going on forever, but man, these records deserve some light of day, deserve some attention, and I don't think they get enough attention in the BC, if at all. I'm gonna go funky again with this one. This is Billy Ocean's debut album, I think. I mean, it's definitely early in his catalog. If it's not his first, it's second record. It came out in 1980. City Limits. I kind of discovered this by accident. I was listening to Caribbean Queen like a little too much one summer. It was like really, really hitting in recent times even. And decided to pick this up, found this somewhere, I don't know, maybe Montreal or somewhere in the disco section. It is super disco, but in a really good way. Production on this is like top shelf. Just check out a track like the opener of side two, Are You Ready, which sounds exactly like a Michael Jackson Quincy Jones, but no Quincy involved. Stay the Night is also a really great track. What You're Doing to Me. And of course, the title track, City Limit, which is another one of these kind of slow, slinky funk tracks. Um, just top to bottom, excellent album. Really good songs and production and vocals. It's got it all. So, doesn't get any attention. But you'd have to be a little bit more on the funky or disco side maybe to really appreciate it. It's a great R&B album by Billy Ocean. Trying to go a little quicker here. Triumph, another Canadian pick here. They're mentioned once in a while on some of the rock or even metal channels in the VC. Don't really see this album that much though, and maybe it's a hell of a lot more common in Canada than the States. I'm not sure where this sits in the discography. It's by no means their debut. It's probably like third or fourth album or something. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. Allied Forces, though, it's kind of like the Triumph album that I always knew as a kid. The one after this is also quite good, but got this one for a measly old buck. So $1 album that rocks, rock your socks off, basically. I love the back cover too because I think this is like some sculpture piece that's I feel like this is part of the piece that's found in the Museum of Modern Art in London, but I could be mistaken. But yeah, Fight the Good Fight. All of side two. Shit. All of side one is good too. Fool for Your Love, Magic Power, Air Raid. Hot Time in the City is kind of a throwaway, kind of a fun song, but Fight the Good Fight, Ordinary Man, Say Goodbye. This album rocks. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it, but yeah. It's a really great album by Triumph, and one that stays in my collection whenever I'm in that kind of mood. So that's 10 right there. Underrated, I think. Gets no love. Are never shown. Maybe they are shown, and you guys let me know in the comments that I've just missed 100 videos or something on some of these bands or some of these albums by these bands. I'll show just a quick few more that I think don't get any love or get shown that much. With Billy Bragg's Workers' Playtime. I was also going to pull Talking with the Taxman, which is also just a real classic and probably is not shown enough. But I'm sure this has been shown. I mean, for one thing, it has Christy McCall on it, so that kind of brings it up to modern standards for some people. This record, and I managed to find an OG copy of this for $2 at one point, still sealed. I've since opened it, liberated it. But yeah, Workers' Playtime is heavily political. He's always got a mix of politics and love songs, basically, is Billy Bragg's motif. This is one of my faves by Billy Bragg's from '88. I really like his early raw kind of minimalist stuff, him and a guitar. This has got more musicianship going on, more instruments, but the songs are all excellent. Again, She's Got a New Spell, Must I Paint a Picture, Tender Comrade, The Price I Pay. I mean, this is like, I'm just reading all of side one. Side two, you got Valentine's Day is Over, and Waiting for the Great Leap Forward, which is his ode to socialism. Yeah, Billy Bragg. We all know him, right? At this point, it's a great album. Nobody ever talks about much. Something I was playing earlier in the background, a little Steve Miller. This is an odd one for Steve Miller. Maybe his disco album. It was kind of the first album after Book of Dreams. Then there was the Greatest Hits, but it took him like 4 years to put out a record after Book of Dreams. I feel like it kind of continues, picks up where that left off and continues on with that smooth rock and roll that he does. Yeah, I really dig it. I got this actually as a VCLT from Brian at Embryonic Robot, so shout out to him. He should also do this thread. It's a bit of a challenge picking out underrated records that are not totally obscure that no one would pick anyway, but I mean, I feel like Steve Miller is somebody that people have shown regularly on the VC. Yeah, I really dig this record. Side 1 is really good too. Heart Like a Wheel, I guess, was the single. Get On Home, Baby Wanna Dance, Circle of Love. And then all of side two is dedicated to Macho City, which I believe Larry Levan incorporated into some of his sets. It was played in some of the Paradise Garage mixes or disco parties. It goes on forever. Um, you can find an edited, shorter version out there as well. How about in the hip hop world, Dr. Dre's 2001 album, which did not come out in 2001, came out in 99. The second album by Dre, nobody talks about Dr. Dre in the VC much, but I mean, production legend, straight out of Compton, straight out of NWA. His solo stuff where he's discovering Snoop Dogg and producing Eminem, etc. Both of which I think make an appearance on this. Yeah, Eminem's on here. I forgot about Dre. Next episode, still Dre, explosive with that crazy hook sample, and a pretty kick-ass lineup of guest rappers as well. Exhibit, Nate Dogg, Corrupt. I mean, this was just a huge record. And when this came out in '99, even going to raves and house clubs, techno clubs would still have this playing somewhere in the background in a side room or wherever. This was playing kind of everywhere in '99. This album owned the year, and I find it kind of funny that nobody ever talks about it or shows it in the VC. A really obscure one, my obscurity pick for the underrated, I got to go with Einstein Neubutten's third album, I believe, Drawings from Patient OT. I won't attempt the German version of that title, but this was my first EN album by the industrial legends from Germany. And I've always stuck with it. It's always been my fave. But other people might pick Collapse or Half Mensch or later stuff. They're still kind of going, and they've changed their sound over many, many years. They got even like classical sounds, etc. Classical, contemporary classical. This is the raw stuff of machines and noises and screaming German lyrics over top. It's very punk rock, very industrial punk. EN's Drawings of Patient OT. And last but not least, this one maybe is kind of an odd pick and doesn't get any love or shown much. Pride by Robert Palmer, and later of Power Station, etc. It doesn't sound like Power Station at all. It doesn't have that kind of like 80s pop hits. This is delving much more into like some disco, funk, tropical. He's kind of all over the place. He even does a cover of the System's You're in My System Already, which I think is like the same year that their version came out. But yeah, there's some kind of interesting tracks on this one. It really kind of took me aback. So yeah, there's a few more than 10 for underrated, underloved records. And that's my response to the thread. I'll see you guys soon.